The English pastor and writer Oswald Chambers, in his famous devotional, My Utmost for His Highest, writes, "The true expression of Christian character is not in good doing, but in God-likeness." In this series entitled The Orchard, we are trying to bear that out. That what God's Spirit is up to in all of our lives, regardless of how long or short we've been a Christian, no matter our age or season of life, God's Spirit is trying to bring about Christ-like character in each of us. And Christian character is directly tied to Christian witness. One of the greatest English-speaking theologians of the last 50 years is the former Archbishop of Canterbury, who presided over the worldwide Anglican Communion. His name is Rowan Williams. In his introductory book to Christianity, written for non-Christians, he says as follows: "Where does belief in God start for a lot of people? It starts from a sense that we believe in. As in, we begin to believe that the way some people live is the way that I want to live. The world they inhabit is the one I'd like to live in. This puts quite a responsibility on believing people, of course. We must make God credible to the world." End quote. If you and I are not committed to allowing God's Spirit to nurture and cultivate in us Christ-like character, then we not only lose character, we lose our witness. One wonders if some of the struggle of churches in the Western world over the last 50 to 70 years has not been about their practices or their methods, but it's actually about their character. Because you cannot separate character and witness. So back to Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23. In this second to last week of our series entitled The Orchard, we turn to the fruit of the Spirit that in the list the Apostle Paul calls gentleness. So what does gentleness mean biblically? Well, the good news is that the Hebrew of the Old Testament and the Greek of the New Testament are aligned, so we can speak about the term in one voice for both testaments. To be a gentle person is to act tenderly, considerately, respectfully, softly. Here are some metaphors for you, not all of which are original with me. To be a gentle person is like how you would catch a raw egg. You're not going to throw it overhand at somebody and expect them to catch it well. To be a gentle person is like how you would hold a soap bubble in your hands. To be a gentle person is like how a cat crosses a cluttered table and yet knocks nothing over. To be gentle is like being an expert baker, kneading softly biscuit dough. To be gentle is to be like a museum curator, handling with gloved hands an ancient manuscript. To be gentle is to receive every single person in your life, in every interaction you have with them, like a memory foam mattress. like your favorite armchair or sofa. But that said, the term for gentleness in both Testaments implies something that we often miss. Biblical gentleness is not about timidity, nor is it about weakness. Actually, gentleness is about strength and power. But it's about restrained strength and measured power. As one writer puts it, gentleness is often found in the pauses of your life. Every single one of us, because we're human beings and are wired the way we are, have strong responses to stimuli that we encounter. Someone speaks harshly to us, and instantly we can't help it. We have a strong reaction. Somebody treats us poorly or disrespectfully, same thing, strong reaction. Gentleness is the pause between the stimuli and what you do next. It is measured strength. This is why some of the weakest people you know, biblically speaking, are the most forceful people you know. The most insistent people you know. The most forceful people you know. There's a French bishop from the 15 and 1600s by the name of Francis de Sales who puts it very simply this way. There is nothing as strong as gentleness, and there is nothing as gentle as real strength. Perhaps you'd acknowledge with me that one of the things the world gets wrong about gentleness is that force only works short term. Only gentleness solves a problem long term. This is why you'll often biblically found the term gentle or gentleness contrasted with things like hardness or harshness or wildness or aggressiveness. This also means that gentleness is not passivity. It's not apathy. It's not being a sponge and just trying to absorb everything that happens to you. It's not gritting your teeth and putting up with it. That's not gentleness. That's not a virtue, that's a vice that harms you and everyone around you. But it is only if you are committed to gentleness that you can trust your own reaction to any situation you're in. Gentleness is restrained, measured strength. It's also, by the way, an act of faith. When you and I choose to act gently to one another, what we're really saying is, I trust God in this moment to be moving and working to do what's best. And I don't have to force my way to get my way in order for that best outcome to occur. The gentle person is a person full of trust in a God who works and works beyond what we can see or know. Can I give you a personal pastoral aside? I suspect that I strike many of you as a gentle person, and I just want you to know you are hopelessly wrong. If you were to look at my personality on things like the Enneagram or Myers-Briggs, what you would find is I am a person marked by two things: very strong intellectual opinions and very strong emotions, which means every day of my life, as a parent, as a husband, and as a pastor to you, what I try to do is practice the measured strength, the restraint of gentleness, because it does not come second nature to me, just like it doesn't to many of you. Now, interestingly, in the Greco-Roman world in which the letter of Galatians is written, there are certain Christian character traits that Paul says the Spirit is trying to cultivate within us, that people in the outside world would look at and laugh at. There is no educated Greco-Roman back in Paul's day who thinks things like gentleness and humility are a virtue. No, normal Greco-Roman virtues are things like strength and honor and even success at all costs. So in Paul's day, advocating for the work of God in our life to make us more gentle would be countercultural. And perhaps you would reflect with me that it is no less countercultural today. David Brooks, the writer for the New York Times, wrote in a piece in the Atlantic just last year that over the last 8 years of his life, he's been obsessed with two questions. How did America get so sad? And how did America get so mean? You can find studies done by institutions like the University of Boston or Siena College that dive deep into the values or virtues that Americans share. You will find the same kind of lists with organizations that help people who are not Native Americans, that is, they weren't born in America, come here and try to integrate into our culture. And what you'll find is that many Americans share the value of individuality, of equality, of personal freedom, of hard work, and so on and so forth. And those are all good things. Here's what's never on the list: kindness, gentleness, patience. I'm not guessing here. I'm telling you that what you feel when you go online or you watch your favorite cable news television station, or you interact with people and are surprised with the brusqueness or the cruelty of their words, I'm not guessing. Our culture no longer values those things. So if you and I are committed to being a people that are gentle, just be prepared. You are going to be cutting across the grain of 21st century America. You will be the fish that is swimming upstream. And just like peace, just like kindness last week, the reason fundamentally that God's Spirit wants to make each of us more gentle is because God is gentle. And all God is trying to do is to help us be His image and likeness in this world. See a human being animated and empowered by God's Spirit. It's like in that moment you are seeing God on your own. I taught about a passage in 1 Kings chapter 19 a few months ago where Elijah, in a very low point of his life, has an encounter with God on the Sinai Peninsula. And we are told in that passage in 1 Kings chapter 19 that God did not speak to him in a fire or an earthquake or a powerful wind, but God instead spoke in a whisper. But in the Old Testament, on several occasions, like in the call to worship in Isaiah chapter 40, verses 10 and 11, what you often have paired is that God is gentle, and God is gentle to us like a shepherd. God carries us when we cannot walk ourselves. God leads us at a pace that we can sustain. God brings us close when we are afraid. God holds us to God's chest and lets us know that everything is okay. This is what it's like to believe and to cherish a God who is gentle through and through. And like kindness and like peace, gentleness in our life works like concentric circles. If your experience of God and your belief about God is anything other than God being gentle, then you are not going to be able to be gentle with yourself, and therefore you are going to have a really hard time being gentle with other people. There's a writer named Gary Thomas who is an expert in spiritual formation and practice over the course of church history. And in his book on Christian virtue, the chapter on gentleness, he writes, fundamentally for the Christian, no one has to earn my gentleness because I didn't have to earn God's gentleness to me. If that is not the God you know, you will have a hard time treating yourself and others tenderly, considerately, with measured strength, with restraint. Gentleness is actually a term, a concept that is all over your scripture. The more you look for it, the more you're going to find it. So here are 3 examples just from the pages of the New Testament and Old Testament. First, gentleness is crucial when we go to offer constructive criticism or correction to somebody who has hurt us or made a mistake. These are the words of the Apostle Paul in Galatians chapter 6, verse 1. My brothers and sisters, if anyone is detected in a transgression, you who have received the Spirit should restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness. Why? Well, again, let me cite Gary Thomas, that expert on spiritual practice across church history. Quote, we can never shout people into right living. What they need more than anything else is to be overwhelmed with the reality of the gentle God who loves them. We can either break someone's spirit, drive them away from the faith and ourselves, or draw them closer by the virtue of gentleness. Only gentleness can open a heart to correction, learning, and growth. You know what bears that out in spades? Parenting. Those of you who have been parents, those of you who are parents, regardless of the age of your kids, tell me what works better when you're trying to correct or teach or nurture something in your kids. Is it force? Is it anger? Or is it gentleness? And I know the answer to my question. And just because your kids are young and can't respond to you as aptly as your 20-year-old or 35-year-old might, doesn't mean that your 6-year-old can handle your force or anger any better than anyone else. What if we nurtured the people around us the same way that our God, who is a gentle shepherd, nurtured us? What if our response to the mistake or missteps that people make, yes, even toward us, was, to quote the Apostle Paul, with a spirit of gentleness? Knowing that the only way that any real change can happen starts with our gentleness. And if we forego gentleness, we forego change whatsoever. Gentleness, the wisdom literature of the Old Testament tells us, is crucial in how we speak to one another. This is Proverbs chapter 15, verse 4. A gentle tongue is a tree of life, but vicious and distorted talk breaks the spirit. What if in every conversation you and I had, even the ones that are difficult and necessary, our goal was, I am going to speak gently here. And I will not speak in a way that tears down or is vicious or unkind or even unclear, which can be a sort of unkindness. My speech has the power in its gentleness to give life to people. What a power indeed to have if we use it considerately and with measure. And by the way, it is one of the hallmarks of what Christian leaders are. No less than 4 times in the New Testament does the Apostle Paul either describe his own leadership or instruct other Christian leaders in the same way as he himself led. And the mandate is simply this: act gently. He says of his own ministry to the church at Thessalonica in the first passage I cite up on the screen, that when I was among you, I was gentle, like a mother with a weaning baby. See, oftentimes the people in our circles, as in any organization, that are often identified as the leaders are the most vocal, the most opinionated, or the most vocal. And those are not the real leaders. The real leaders are the people who are gentle. Because a real leader understands that their responsibility is not to take charge. Their responsibility is to take care of those who are in their charge. Therein is the key difference. So, the Apostle Paul, let me sum it up this way. Near the end of his letter to the church at Philippi, he says to that small church in Macedonia, let your gentleness be known, not just to a few, not just to those who are your friends, not just to those who are like you, not just to those you like. Let your gentleness be known to everyone, and it will stand out in this world. And do so because the Lord is near. The Lord is trying to nurture this gentleness in you, and when you are gentle, you look like the Lord you revere. Let me end with a short 3-stanza poem on gentleness. Not just our own gentleness and the power it carries, but God's gentleness to all. A soft and steady breeze, a whisper low, an open heart in which kindness grows. The sun's first rays, a balm upon the soul, a quiet strength making the broken whole. In patient ears, sorrow finds its quiet home, and only in tenderness can weary hearts be known. The wise hand that guides, a helping grace, a smile that shines in every time and place. Like rain on thirsty earth, a soothing sound, divine and human gentleness unbound. A way of being, an eternal light, never false, always good, always right. Would you take a minute here at the end of the sermon and respond to God's truth about gentleness with your own prayer? Up on the screen are 3 possible prayer prompts. I'm going to give you a minute to respond personally, and then we're going to pray something aloud together. As we have done after every sermon in this series, will you pray aloud with me this prayer that comes to us from one of the great Anglican pastors and theologians of the 20th century, John Stott. Pray with me, please. Our good God, who is always with and in me, fill me with your Spirit and cause its fruit to grow and ripen in my life. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Amen.